There are births that mark the beginning of a life, and then there are births that mark the beginning of an age. It was the night of July 10th, 1856, in a small village named Smiljan, nestled in the mountains of what is now Croatia. A violent thunderstorm raged outside. The wind howled, rain lashed against the wooden windows, and lightning lit up the room like a divine spark. As the midwife trembled, she whispered to Tesla's mother, "This will be a child of darkness." His mother, Duca Mandic, her face calm and radiant under the candlelight, replied softly, "No, he will be a child of light." And so he was. Tesla was born into a world still ruled by the rhythm of candles and oil lamps, a world untouched by the hum of electricity. His father, Milutin Tesla, was a Serbian Orthodox priest, a man of words and poetry. His mother, though uneducated formally, had a gift. She could build mechanical devices with her hands. She could weave patterns, create tools, and repair broken machines with pure intuition. Tesla would later say, "My mother was an inventor of the first order. I owe all my inventive instincts to her." As a child, Nikola's mind was restless, alive, and often overwhelmed. He could see images so vivid that they seemed to float before his eyes, bolts of light, patterns, geometric shapes spinning in space. He would later call them visual imaginations, flashes of inspiration that felt as real as the world around him. He said, "When I get an idea, I build it in my mind. I change the construction, make improvements, and run the device in my imagination." This strange gift, this ability to visualize entire machines before ever touching a tool, would become the secret of his genius. He didn't need blueprints. His mind was the laboratory. From the moment he could speak, Tesla was curious about the forces unseen. He studied the flight of insects, the whirl of rivers, the crackle of fire, wondering what invisible energies lay beneath them. When he was a boy, he tried to make a water wheel turn using only the flow of air. He built small mechanical devices from scraps, watched stars for hours, and memorized books line by line. He had an eidetic memory capable of recalling entire pages after a single reading. But tragedy struck early. His beloved brother Dane, who was 5 years older, died in a riding accident when Nikola was only 7. The loss shattered the family. Tesla, haunted by grief, began to withdraw into the world of his imagination, a place where he could rebuild, recreate, and bring order to chaos. He later confessed, "The day my brother died, part of me died with him." But from that void emerged something else, a hunger to understand the mysteries of life and death, matter and energy, light and darkness. As he grew older, Tesla's fascination with natural forces deepened. He began to experience visions, not hallucinations, but sudden bursts of understanding. He could see energy flowing in his mind, like invisible threads connecting all things. At 17, while walking by a river at sunset, an image flashed in his mind, a rotating magnetic field, circling endlessly like the dance of the cosmos itself. It was a moment of revelation, a glimpse into the principle that would one day power the entire planet. He later wrote, "That day, I knew my life would be devoted to electricity." In his youth, Tesla attended the Austrian Polytechnic School in Graz, where he studied mathematics, physics, and engineering. He was a brilliant student capable of working for days without rest. Professors spoke of his ability to solve complex problems in his head faster than others could on paper. But Tesla was not satisfied with books alone. He wanted to feel the laws of nature, not just memorize them. When he studied electrical machines, he saw their flaws instantly. He envisioned a system that could eliminate friction, reduce waste, and use alternating currents instead of direct ones. At the time, the world ran on direct current, DC, a one-way flow of electricity promoted by Thomas Edison. But DC had a fatal limitation. It could not travel far without losing power. Tesla dreamed of an opposite, a rotating, alternating current, AC, that could flow back and forth efficiently and endlessly. When he explained this to his professors, they laughed. Alternating current, they said, was impossible. But Tesla was not deterred. He worked endlessly in his notebooks, drawing circles, waves, and spirals, the geometry of energy itself. He saw electricity not as a mechanical force, but as a rhythm, a vibration, a living pulse of the universe. After completing his studies, Tesla worked briefly as an engineer in Budapest and later in Paris, where he repaired electrical equipment for the Continental Edison Company. His superiors noticed his extraordinary talent. He could fix anything, often improving the designs on the spot. One evening, while walking through the park reciting verses from Goethe's Faust, the final vision came. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he picked up a stick and drew a diagram in the dust, the first sketch of a rotating magnetic field, the heart of the induction motor. It was the idea that would transform industry forever. He said, "The sun set, and I saw the whole machine before me. Every part, every motion, it was complete." That moment sealed his destiny. But destiny often demands distance. In 1884, Nikola Tesla packed a small bag, carried a letter of recommendation, and boarded a ship bound for America, the land where his visions would either rise or be buried. The New York harbor shimmered under the dawn of a new age when Tesla arrived. He was 28 years old. He had 4 cents in his pocket, a few poems in his coat, and an idea that could light up the world. He carried with him a letter to Thomas Edison, the great American inventor. The letter was from Edison's European associate and read, "My dear Edison, I know 2 great men. You're one of them. The other is this young man." Edison hired Tesla almost immediately. The 2 men, both geniuses, both obsessed with light and electricity, began working together. But while Edison was practical, focused on profit and patents, Tesla was a dreamer, devoted entirely to perfection and purity of invention. Tesla worked tirelessly, redesigning Edison's generators and improving efficiency. Edison once promised him $50,000 if he could make his DC system better. Tesla succeeded. When he asked for the reward, Edison laughed and said, "You don't understand our American humor." Humor or betrayal, it broke Tesla's heart. He resigned, and for a time, he dug ditches on the streets of New York, a man of brilliance reduced to labor, yet still dreaming. He wrote, "I had the satisfaction of seeing the machinery of the universe moving smoothly, though I suffered." The streets of New York glowed with invention in the late 1880s. Factories roared, telegraphs sang, and a new kind of power hummed through copper veins beneath the city. But behind the lights, a silent war was brewing, a war of currents. On one side stood Thomas Edison, the champion of direct current, DC, steady, one-way, predictable. On the other stood Nikola Tesla, the prophet of alternating current, AC, rhythmic, oscillating, and far more powerful. To Edison, DC was safe, controllable, and profitable. To Tesla, AC was the heartbeat of the cosmos itself, a perfect reflection of nature's alternating forces. But devotion is rarely welcomed by empires. Edison began a brutal campaign to discredit Tesla's invention. He financed public demonstrations showing animals electrocuted by AC to convince people it was deadly. He even coined the term to Westinghouse after Tesla's ally as a synonym for electrocution. Tesla ignored the mockery. He believed the truth of nature would defend itself. He said, "I do not care that they stole my idea. I care that they don't have any of their own." In 1888, Tesla found a kindred spirit, George Westinghouse, a brilliant industrialist who saw in AC the future of the world. Westinghouse bought Tesla's patents and gave him the support Edison never would. Together, they began to light up America. By 1893, their system triumphed in a spectacle the world had never seen, the world's Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Tesla and Westinghouse lit the entire fairgrounds with alternating current. 100,000 lamps blazed with steady white light. Crowds gasped, bathed in a brilliance that seemed almost divine. For the first time in history, humanity had conquered the night. Tesla stood among them, quiet, almost detached. While others celebrated, he gazed at the glowing bulbs with the calm of a man who had seen this light long before it ever existed. His vision had won. The world was changing, and he was already dreaming of what would come next. The victory at Chicago opened the gates to Tesla's grandest challenge to harness the raw fury of Niagara Falls and turn it into endless energy. For centuries, poets had described Niagara as nature's thunderous voice. Tesla saw it as a generator, a living dynamo waiting to be awakened. He told Westinghouse, "When I see a waterfall, I see a great power for the future." In 1895, construction began on the Niagara Power Project. The undertaking was colossal tunnels carved through rock, massive turbines designed from Tesla's blueprints, and power lines stretching miles toward the city of Buffalo. On the day it came to life, the falls thundered louder than ever, not in chaos, but in harmony. Electricity surged across miles of wire, lighting homes, factories, and dreams. Tesla's alternating current had conquered nature's might. When the first current reached Buffalo in 1896, a new era began. The age of mechanical power ended. The age of electrical civilization had dawned. It was Tesla's moment of triumph. He had turned water into light. But triumphs in his life were always fleeting, followed by betrayal, isolation, and loss. With Niagara's success behind him, Tesla turned to the next horizon. Wireless power, the transmission of energy through the very air. He imagined a world where homes, ships, and cities drew power directly from the atmosphere, without wires or limits. He dreamed of global communication, energy sent across oceans, and free access to electricity for all humanity. To most, it sounded like madness. To Tesla, it was destiny. In 1901, he convinced financier J.P. Morgan to fund his greatest experiment, the Wardenclyffe Tower, rising from the sands of Long Island. It was a gleaming metal giant, 187 feet tall, its dome reaching for the sky like a conduit between Earth and stars. Tesla envisioned it as the first node in a global network that could send energy and information to any point on Earth. He said, "When wireless is perfectly applied, the whole Earth will be converted into a huge brain." But when Morgan learned Tesla intended to make electricity free for everyone, the money stopped. "Where do we put the meter?" Morgan asked. Without funding, the dream began to crumble. Work halted. Debts rose. Wardenclyffe stood unfinished, a monument to human potential and human greed. Eventually, the tower was dismantled for scrap. Tesla's vision of a wireless world was abandoned, only to be reborn a century later as Wi-Fi, satellites, and global communication systems built upon the very principles he had imagined. He once sighed, "The present is theirs. The future for which I really worked is mine." As the years passed, the world Tesla had illuminated began to dim around him. New inventors rose. New empires claimed the light he had created. Edison became a legend. Westinghouse grew rich. But Tesla faded into shadow. He withdrew from public life, working alone in small hotel rooms across New York. He lived frugally, surviving on milk, bread, and honey. He fed pigeons daily, speaking to them as if they were his only friends. Once he nursed an injured white pigeon back to health and said, "I loved that pigeon as a man loves a woman. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life." His mind, though isolated, never stopped dreaming. He developed ideas for radar, remote control, vertical takeoff aircraft, renewable energy systems, and death rays that could prevent war. He claimed to have received signals from outer space, perhaps a glimpse into cosmic frequencies we still do not fully understand. But funding never came. His inventions remained on paper, his notebooks filled with brilliance the world ignored. He walked through the streets of Manhattan tall, elegant, and distant, a ghost surrounded by the very light he had given humanity. He was called eccentric, mad, forgotten. But those who truly knew him saw a man consumed by a single devotion to give the world what he had seen in his mind. He believed energy was infinite, that nature's secrets were generous, and that science, if pure, could uplift all of humanity. He said, "Let the future tell the truth, and evaluate each one according to his work and accomplishments. The present is theirs, the future is mine." And so it would be. The 1930 arrived, carrying the hum of machines Tesla had dreamed of decades before. The world now thrived on electricity, radio, and wireless communication, yet the man who had planted the seeds of this revolution lived in quiet obscurity. Nikola Tesla resided at the New Yorker Hotel, room 3327, a modest space filled with blueprints, pigeon feathers, and fading memories. He was in his 80s, tall and frail, his piercing blue eyes still glowing with the light of unfulfilled visions. He spent his days feeding pigeons in Bryant Park, speaking softly to them about peace, energy, and the universe. Each morning, he wrote in his notebooks thousands of pages of diagrams and theories. To the world, they were the ramblings of an old man. To those who understood, they were maps of tomorrow. Tesla's mind never slept. He claimed to have discovered a way to harness cosmic rays, to draw limitless energy from the vacuum of space. He imagined anti-gravity airships that could circle the globe without refueling, transmitting power wirelessly as they flew. He spoke of Teleforce, a defensive beam so powerful it could make war impossible. And he spoke of a global wireless network, a system connecting every person, every device, every thought, what we now call the internet. But his body was failing, and his finances were gone. He lived on a small government pension from Yugoslavia, not America the country he had helped electrify. Yet, even in poverty, his dignity never wavered. He wore perfectly pressed suits, walked with regal posture, and bowed politely to strangers who passed him in the hall. When asked why he had no wealth despite his genius, he smiled and said, "Money does not represent such a value as men have placed upon it. All my money has been invested into experiments with which I have made new discoveries." He had given everything, his time, his health, his fortune, to his devotion. And now, at the edge of his life, he found solace in the creatures he loved, most the pigeons who gathered at his window every evening. He spoke often of a white pigeon who came to him daily, whose wings glowed with light when she looked at him. He said, "I knew she loved me. As long as I had her, there was a purpose to my life." When that pigeon died, Tesla wept for days. He said that when she passed, a light brighter than any he had ever seen filled the room, and then it was gone. He knew his time, too, was ending. On January 7th, 1943, in the quiet of the New Yorker Hotel, Nikola Tesla died alone in his bed. He was 86 years old. No one was with him when he took his last breath. The door was locked from the inside, his body discovered 2 days later by a maid. On the table beside him lay crumbs of bread, a few coins, and a stack of notes written in his precise hand. When news of his death spread, few newspapers gave it more than a few lines. America was at war. The world had no time for the passing of a forgotten dreamer. Yet behind the scenes, his work had not been forgotten. Agents from the U.S. Office of Alien Property entered his room and seized his papers. Hundreds of pages of calculations, inventions, and sketches all boxed and labeled top secret. To this day, much of that material remains classified. Some said he had designed a death ray. Others believed he had built prototypes of anti-gravity engines or devices that could tap into free cosmic energy. The truth remains hidden somewhere between myth and science. When a great mind dies, its ideas rarely die with it. They become part of the atmosphere, invisible currents shaping the world long after the body is gone. In the decades after his death, Tesla's name began to rise again, whispered first among engineers, then celebrated by historians, and finally honored by the entire world. The alternating current system he championed became the foundation of modern electricity. His induction motors power factories, elevators, and electric cars. His theories on resonance and wireless energy became the backbone of radio, radar, and the wireless networks that now connect our lives. Even the Tesla coil, once seen as a parlor trick, became the ancestor of radio transmitters and plasma technology. Every time a phone connects without a wire, every time a light flickers on in the dark, Tesla's spirit hums through it. He saw what others could not: a world where energy was infinite, connection was universal, and invention was a gift, not a product. In 1960, the scientific community finally honored him. The unit of magnetic flux density, the Tesla T, was named after him, ensuring his name would forever live in the language of physics. Later, the International Tesla Society, museums, and foundations were established in his memory. And in the 21st century, a new generation rediscovered him not as a mad scientist, but as a man centuries ahead of his time. The company Tesla Incorporated, named by Elon Musk, carries his legacy into the electric future not merely in name, but in spirit. Tesla's dream of a clean, wireless, global energy network is closer today than it ever was during his lifetime. He would have smiled to see that the current he set in motion still flows unstoppable, luminous, eternal. Nikola Tesla was not of this world, though he lived among us. He ate little, slept less, and spoke to the invisible not out of madness, but communion. He sought the rhythm that binds all life, the vibration between the stars, the pulse behind the thunder. He once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." That was his creed, his prayer, his legacy. Tesla's life was not a tragedy, it was a symphony. Every failure, every betrayal, every lonely night in his hotel room, each was a note in the music of a mind too vast to be contained by one lifetime. He gave the world its light, and in return, the world forgot his name. But the light remained, and through that light, he lives forever. The present is theirs. The future, for which I really worked, is mine. Nikola Tesla.